It's all energy, it's all chemicals, but it's very hard to quantify how to make money on subtle energy.
So you feel like the adaptation to things has been low because of money and profits and things like that?
Money. It's all money. There's a man, he's dead now, Dr. Björn Nordenström. He was a radiologist. He sat on the Nobel Peace Prize committee, and he was healing cancer and eye disease by tracking what he called the current of energy, the current of injury, through the meridians, into the cardiovascular system, into the neurological system. He was able to measure using electrodes and these types of devices, very preliminary devices. Wow, there's too much electricity here, or there's too much positively charged particles. And when he balanced them out, people were healing. This isn't that complicated. But if we could really heal cancer with vaccines, which, by the way, we have a lot of cancer vaccines now that work if they're administered early. If we could really do a lot of this with nanotechnology, which, by the way, we could. If we could do a lot more with CRISPR, which we can. If we can track the balance of electricity and magnetics, which we can. If we can be using sound, which we can, to figure out if people have cancer, or to change what's called the epigenomes. The epigenome is chemical soups that are around the genes that really cause a lot of diseases. We have what we need, even in the medical field. So why isn't available? It's not available. It's not all subtle, but is subtle energy being made practical? I tell you, it's money.
So things like that, I have a hard time like wrapping my head around and agreeing with, because when like whatever thing there is for like a cure or something like that, my place that I go to is like that would drive more money and profits of things, because you have the ability to control the narrative of it. You know, you have ability to control supply and demand of it. On top of that, like the weight of something like that, of people finding out, would be detrimental to an industry or a company or et cetera.
Well, first of all, people don't go research. They don't do their own research. Very, very few people do their own research. They don't look at the science journals. They don't look at what's happening in subtle medicine. They don't look at the proof that we have a biofield that is shaping what's happening. It's all out there, but they don't take self-responsibility to do the research. First, it's easier to dumb ourselves down and just think somebody has the answer and we don't have to go find it ourselves. And it's like the oil and gas industry. They don't want solar because all their money, therefore profits around the world, are based on oil of gas. It's the same with prescription meds. It's the same with food. In America, we have 10,000 chemicals in our food. I mean, that's insane. That's crazy. We don't need them. But that supports Monsanto. And it supports the industries. So even though there's all these people saying these aren't good for us and we've got plastics in our body, the money controllers don't listen if they're still making money on the old way of doing things. It's got to be grassroots. And there is grassroots. Energy healing is grassroots. It's starting to bubble up. I use energy healing often when people have really critical illnesses in concert with what they're doing in allopathic medicine. I don't say don't do the chemo, don't do the radiation. I tell them do the immunotherapy. That's like really cool treatment. Everybody responds differently to it. Some people get really sick from it. Some people can tolerate it. But I do the supplement, so I make sure that they're clearing the underlying trauma patterns or the emotional issues or what might be caught in there that's putting too many, I would make it simple, positive or weird spiritual charges in there, or negative charges, which largely are emotional, stuck emotions.
So, a couple things that I think of. and I want to be very nuanced in this dialogue part, is the trade-offs of certain things in our field and industry of things. Because I think things that you talked about, which were interesting, of like, well, like the oil versus like solar.
Right.
Things and discussions like that, right? Of like, or I think another one that I think of is like mass farming, right? And things like that. The nuances of that, of people, I've seen people talk about wanting to have more like, I don't mean humane farms in the sense of like making it more humane for the animals. That's not what I mean. I mean more humane farms and like grass-fed, grass-finished, things like that, right? I've seen people talk about that, but, or, you know, farming different animals or things like that.
Right.
But the way that we've industrialized is, I think, there's a piece of money, absolutely, right? Like, I think that's why people push things for greed, for bottom dollars. But then the more interesting take that I think about it is that too, of like lifestyle creep in finances. As somebody starts to, you know, make more money, they're like, well, I can buy this. Well, I can buy that. And now their lifestyle is matching their income, which is why you see so many people like will make $100,000 a year, live paycheck to paycheck. The nature of the country and the world is that the reason we are able to have so much abundance of things is because of the industrialization of things. And things like oil versus, you know, like solar is, you know, solar's not as efficient as oil. Now, I am not a fan of oil. I am personally like a fan of like nuclear energy. I think that's,
right. I agree.
You know, and then that's where I think the hurdles of people's emotions and things like that about, you know, nuclear energy, fears, while understandable, misguided, and the money hurdles overcome. So my guess, what my point is like with all that take of like understanding, like we live in a very flawed system, but it is the system that like the trade-offs that we've exquisited, and I guess the practicality of doing things more grassroots, but is that even sustainable anymore for the lifestyle that Western modernized countries can even support?
Industrialization has been an important part of growth.
Yeah.
And let's take a look at what's happening just in America with rising debt, with expenditures that are crazy, with the start of the Iran war, with no end in sight, with no benefit from it. I mean, industrialization, basically Trump and Heritage Foundation, et cetera, you know, is going back to McKinley. They just want to create an oligarchy and have it be the already rich and the tech boys to run everything. You know, it's really, really old-fashioned reactionary dogma. And so that's the Industrial Revolution. It's the original model of the Industrial Revolution. So I think many of us are saying, look, we can't even afford to pay rent right now. We can't afford to commute to
Yeah.
work, because that's the end result of going back to a pure industrial revolution
Sure.
model. And so I think in energy healing, what we're trying to do is say, wait a minute, this has gotten out of control where we don't even have any knowledge of our own body. We're not processing our own feelings, our own emotions. There was this recent Newsweek article like a few months ago, and it was like, guess what? Food is medicine. I mean, like, that's just stupid. Everybody's known that, who I've known since I was like 10. So we're so far behind within the industries. And I think some of that's on purpose, because it is about control. It is about, this is how you build your businesses. It's about if you control the data and you make your way the only way, but right now we're at this tipping point because people can't afford to live within the current industrial revolution model. It's an insanity.
So one thing that I have thought about is lately I've been on a bit of a Star Wars kick.
Oh, okay. Cool.
My thoughts is because of the nature of humans, we swing very rapidly between black and white.
We do, good and bad.
And with everything that's happening...
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're good. With everything that's happening, and because, believe me, I understand, as being Gen Z, what is happening. Like, gas is $4.30 right now. It costs me almost $100 to fill up my tank.
Cat food is double. Keep going.
And, a studio is about no cheaper than $800. Which is close to a quarter of my monthly income.
Right.
And I don't have any debt.
Right. You're lucky.
Yeah. But to that extremity of things of like, I hear, I've heard you talk about things about finding that information, is that the pendulum swings too far onto things where the middle ground gets lost.